Hey guys, it's Mr. Abby again. Um, I know we've talked a lot this week and about a week and a half about the ways that different plants and animals get what they need from an environment. Sorry if I'm a little stuffy here, so voice might not be what it is on most days, but we've talked a lot about how different plants and animals get what they need from their environments, how different plants and animals that live in different environments can look different, can have different features or adaptations that allow them to do well in one environment or another. You know, a fish isn't going to do as well in a desert as, say, maybe some different kinds of lizards. You might notice that different kinds of plants and animals are more common in different areas. You won't see a lot of seaweed growing in the desert either, but you won't see a lot of cactuses growing underneath the ocean. The different adaptations that these plants and animals get, they develop, they grow over time living in those environments are usually pretty connected to where they live, to what they need to do. Um, Today, I want us to think a little bit about how we've talked a lot about the animals that live in different environments, how that changes them. We haven't really talked a lot about the environments themselves. So today, one of the things I really want you to think about is not just these habitats, these environments as places. Today, we're going to talk about the forest habitat. A habitat can really be anywhere something lives. But something I want us to think a little bit about on top of that is the ecosystem. So, a habitat can be anywhere something lives. Your house could be your habitat. But an ecosystem is all the things, all the different things that live in that habitat, even some of the things that don't live in that habitat, like rocks and stuff like that. They're not alive, but they all form a part of the ecosystem. All these things have effects on each other and they change each other. So all the plants in one habitat or ecosystem are different because of all the other things. All the things that work together in one place kind of change each other. Um, Birds aren't just the way that they are that live in Antarctica just because it's cold. They live the way they do because there's lots of food in the water, so they need to be able to swim rather than fly. Everything in a habitat, in a living ecosystem, relies on each other. They change each other. They work together in a way so that they can all live together and they can all get what they need. So I definitely want us to think today about all the different things that live in one habitat, one kind of habitat. We're going to talk a lot this week about different kinds of habitats, but I want us to think about how each thing, a river going through a forest, the kinds of trees that live in a forest, how is that going to affect the kind of creatures that live there? How do all of these things work together? That's why we say ecosystem, because it's kind of a system. It's all these things working together, living together. How does that make things different? How does that make them adapt or grow differently? Like we talked about yesterday when we were talking about mistletoe. It's a plant that can take a lot of its moisture and nutrients from other plants so it can live up higher and get better sunlight. Mistletoe really wouldn't be what it was without the other kind of trees around it that it needs to take advantage of. That's something I really want us to think a lot about today when we're listening to our forest habitat uh, brain pop. I also want you guys, once again, to head on through my quiz. Um, it's not going to be so heavy on ecosystems. That's just something I want you to consider. Maybe you can add a little bit down at the bottom where I give you guys room to give us your thoughts. We're going to have a few more of those multiple choice or multiple answer questions. So again, where it says select all that apply, make sure you're picking a few different answers on there. I'm going to go through and I'm going to fix some of the things as we go through. I know it doesn't automatically give you grades for your longer response at the end. Basically, I'm going to give you credit if you're thinking, if you're giving me your thoughts on there, I'm going to give you a little bit of credit on there. So don't worry if it tells you got it wrong right off the bat because it doesn't automatically grade those. I have to go in, look at what you said. and I'll give you credit as long as you're thinking, as long as you're giving me some of your thoughts, because I really like to hear back from you guys. I've really been impressed by a lot of the thoughts I hear from you guys every day, and I really love going through these in the end of the day and checking what you guys think. So one more time, I'm going to go through this forest habitat quiz with you just in case you have a hard time reading it. Some of these, they get a little wordy. Some of the words get a little bit longer because we're thinking about stuff like adaptations, ecosystems. I know these things are not going to be stuff that you guys are super familiar with yet. That's why we're talking about it. So again, forest habitats is one of our favorite kinds of habitats because there's all sorts of things that can live there and work together in all sorts of forests. If we don't talk about rainforests yet, don't sweat it. We're going to get there. All right. So what are some ways that forests change from season to season? Again, select all that apply. You can pick more than one answer here. All right. Some of the ways that forests change from season to season. Do things pretty much stay the same in forests between the winter and summer? Do many plants and animals sleep or go dormant over winters when there isn't much food? Nothing can survive over winter, so all the plants and animals have to come back each summer? Or do most plants and animals grow more and reproduce or make more of themselves over spring and summer? Again, when we're thinking about questions like these, when we're thinking about forests, I want you to think about the environment, the kind of animals that live around you, the kind of plants that live around you, the kind of seasons that happen are all going to change the ways that animals and plants interact with their environment. A forest isn't just a place, it's an ecosystem. So there's a lot of things going on. It's not just kind of a place where you go to rest your head. It's a whole living system that animals and plants have to figure out their way around just like you and I would. Right on to the next question. What are some of the ways that animals adapt or change during the different seasons? Select all that apply once again. Some animals hibernate or migrate to avoid the cold of winter when food is hard to find. Animals cannot survive winters in forests and have to leave. Animals don't really change what they do or eat between winters and summers in forests. Or some animals eat different things depending on what is around in different seasons. Again, we're thinking a little bit about how the whole ecosystem, not just the trees. We know that the trees drop their leaves in the winter, but sometimes we don't think about what that means for the different kinds of plants that live around them. We don't think about, okay, well, if you're a bird that eats seeds, do you have to leave each winter when those seeds are no longer around? Or do you switch what you eat because there's different things available? There's still food around, just maybe not what you eat during the summer. All right, next question. How are coniferous or evergreen trees, the ones that have needles and stay green all year round, different from deciduous or leafy trees, the ones that have leaves and they drop them every year? They don't, coniferous trees, they don't live in places where weather changes from season to season. They only live in places that are cold all year round. They don't grow in forests like deciduous or leafy trees do. Or do they have thin needles instead of leaves and stay green all year round? What's a way that coniferous or evergreen trees are different from deciduous ones, or the ones with leaves? Now, here's where I want us to think a little bit about how we interact with forests because we have become a part of all these ecosystems too. Humans, we dab a little bit in everything. We go to these places, we hike there, but we also get a lot of natural resources from forests. All kinds of forests. We use the stuff that is in these forests, and I want us to think a little bit about that. Why do humans cut down trees and forests? I'm sure you're familiar with some products that we get from the forests. I'm sure you might even see some right around me, things that we use from forests. I mean, there's quite a bit of wood kicking around there, some paper products up there, things to think about. Why do humans cut down trees and forests? Do most people think that trees are ugly? Do we get many products from trees like wood and paper and clear the land for space to build homes and cities? Do many pests, insects, and animals come from forests and that's why we cut them down? Or is it just because it's easy to get lost in forests and if we cut them all down, it's a little easier to get around? It's good to think about how we affect a lot of these ecosystems too, because the way we interact with our natural environment is going to change things for a lot of animals. Not every animal can go in. I mean, beavers cut down trees, right? But when they cut down a tree and they build a dam, they change the area around them, and I think in very different ways from going down and clearing a whole forest. Maybe they just cut down a couple trees. Maybe they build a dam which makes water flood in, and now you've got a nice pond where everything can live, and that changes the ecosystem a lot too. Um, there's a lot of animals that rely on beavers doing that to be able to make their own homes. Just a little something to think about. Next question is, when people cut down forests for land and natural resources like paper and wood, what happens to other living things that live there? Is everyone happy with the products and cities that we make, including all the animals and plants? Does it not matter because there's so many trees and so much space that they can all just move to another place and still be happy? Do plants and animals lose their natural environments that they need to survive? Or do they just grow back and cut them down? They just grow right back and no sweat. All right. Oops. Now we want to go into, why do we think that forests are important habitats? Oop, I don't know what's going on here. Why do we think that forests are important habitats and what can we all do to protect them? Here again is where you give me your longer answer here. Um, what can we all do to protect our forests and why are they important? Do you see, I mean, we do see squirrels a lot in the cities and stuff like that and other animals, but are there animals that just live in forests? Are they really important to the animals that live there? I know in our brain pop we talk a little bit about bears. Hopefully you don't see a lot of bears in your cities, but maybe when we clear out their natural environments, maybe that's when we do start to see these animals trying to make it in the city because they just can't find anywhere else to live. And that could be dangerous for some of us. And what is something that we can do to protect these plants and animals? I know in our brain pop we mentioned a little bit about that. And probably next week, I'd like to spend a little bit talking about what we call conservation. Conservation is just a fancy word that means to protect something, to um, to ration a resource, to not use it all up, conserve some so that there's more left for future generations for the plants and animals to live in. Um, why do you think they're important habitats? What can we all do to protect them? I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. I know you guys can be really thoughtful in this. I know I've talked to us a little bit about the three R's. They talk a little bit about that in our brain pop, but we're going to develop those ideas next week. So if you don't have a lot of ideas right off the bat, just come up with what you can, and we're going to talk about it a little bit later. Again, I hope you guys are doing well with your break. I hope you're staying healthy, not snuffly like me today. I hope you're staying warm and taking care of each other. I know even though it's a little bit chilly, I heard a lot of birds out this morning. I was listening to some starlings out my window this morning. They make some of the weirdest, most fun sounds. So I hope you're getting a little bit of that, even if it's through a window. I know we've been crammed inside a lot lately. I certainly have. Um, but we're trying to keep everybody healthy. We're trying to keep everybody safe. And a little bit of extra time, I think, is just what we need sometimes to get a little extra time with our family and take a little bit more time to just stop and smell the roses, to enjoy the world around us in a way that maybe we're a little too rushed to do most of the time. Most mornings I don't have the time to sit there and just watch a couple birds in the tree and listen to them while I drink my coffee. It's a really nice experience, and I hope you guys are making the best of it. Stay awesome, my ducklings. I hope that this break is seeing you guys well, and I look forward to seeing you in a few weeks.